All right. Hopefully, no more interruptions. No more interruptions. Mm. So let's get into it. FD Signifier versus Kidology. I don't even know if I finished FD Signifier's video. I'm pretty sure I did because I remember that tab being all the way at the end. I don't think that his response was as focused as it could have been with him doing the panel. I don't know if that's his only response because this was on the B channel. And this is going to piggyback off of the video that I just did talking about the Kidology's talking point it was a piece of my video, but I didn't, after hearing FD Signifier's response with his panel of leftists, um, it made me, you know, want to speak on it because there were certain things that he said that, I'm like, you're doing exactly what she said that the people on the left do. First thing, I think that uh, they feel some type of way about Kidology because she is a black South African queer woman raised by a conservative white family and went to Oxford, some Oxford boarding school or something like that. I think she went to Oxford University. I don't know. But um, the fact of the matter is she doesn't fit in a box. And this is the whole problem, in my opinion, when it comes to the left, is the left wants everybody to fit in a box, especially because they're catering to so many factions, so many different groups. And it makes it easier to have a box for people. Oh, you're a black man, you fit in this box and you have these beliefs. Oh, you're a black woman, oh, you fit in this box and you have these beliefs. Oh, you're a queer woman, oh, you fit in this box and you have these beliefs. And that is how they want to form their rainbow coalition. Completely ignoring the nuances, completely ignoring the fact that everybody doesn't fit in a box. And this is the key difference between the left and the right. The right looks like um the right, from a distance you would say, well, look at the right. The right is nothing but a bunch of white people, and clearly the Democrats, the liberals, they're full of all the minorities, right? So clearly the left is more diverse than the right. And yeah, it does appear that way. But when you get into the details, what Kidology said is more accurate of what's going on. Meaning, how do I break this down? If you're on the left and you don't fit into one of those boxes, if you don't believe in, let's say there's 10 tenets to be a liberal. If you don't believe in all the 10 tenets, they'll cast you out, right? So you can't, for example, myself, I'm a black man. The left would accept me just on face value of that. Actually, they might have a problem with me because remember the articles that came out years ago about black men are the white men of the black community, right? Because the left caters to the feminist and the feminists hate, the white heteronormative patriarchal infrastructure and all that. And just off of the strength of me being a black man and having a penis, that puts me at odds with all the social justice warriors that have a problem with patriarchy because I'm still bringing that male masculine energy into the space, right? But let's just go with the idea that they would accept me off of the strength of being a black man. They would also accept me off of the strength of that I'm an atheist, right? But they would reject me off of me being a pro 2A advocate. They would reject me off of the fact that I don't support transgenderism, right? So I will be rejected. I don't fit in a box. And the difference with the right is that the right uses people until they can't use them anymore. And I don't mean use in a bad way, meaning, I can walk into any gun shop and the fact that I'm in the gun shop, the white people that are in the gun shop, they'll treat you amazingly, because you're one more person that supports their agenda of expounding the Second Amendment, right? Or challenging the idea that the Second Amendment and those that support the Second Amendment are all a bunch of racist white hillbillies that don't want black people to exercise their rights. And I'm not saying that you don't have people that have that attitude, but again, you know, they want to challenge the liberal narrative and the leftist narrative. So you know, for that purpose, I would be embraced in that space. You know, and so while liberals or leftists are like, you must agree with all 10 tenets of my belief system, otherwise you don't count as a leftist. The people on the right are like, hey man, just give me like 7 out of the 10 and we're good. Hell, give me 5 out of the 10 and we're good. You love Jesus, you support the Second Amendment, and you believe in small government. Oh, I'll take 3. Okay, we'll roll with that. We'll talk about the other stuff later. Oh, you, what are you? Well, you don't support the Second Amendment. You live in a big city. You know what I mean? You don't really care about religion. You know what I mean? But you believe in small government and you are a fiscally conservative. Yeah, okay, come on in, brother. That's what conservatives do. That's what the right does. The left, on the other hand, nah, you got to believe in, you know, all of their tenets, and if you don't, they're going to, you know, excommunicate you. And that's what Kidology was talking about, and she was right. FD Signifier, he was getting all his feathers all ruffled, and you know, I mean, he's such the biggest cheerleader of the left. You know, and I don't know what his whole thing is with always caping for transgender issues. This is one of the things that when it comes to black people supporting the left, you know, the left started out being, you know, the party of workers, the party of unions, and then, you know, all that is essentially dissipated. And you know, black people, you know, because we used to be a part of that unionized labor, you know, we supported that. Plus, you know, LBJ signing the you know, the civil rights bill and everything, even though he was a staunch racist, but still nonetheless. And we just kind of lazily stuck with that concept and that idea. But now the left has adjusted, and the vast majority of black people haven't adjusted. And there's this rift between black men and black women because as the family structure has declined in America, and you have more single women, and you have more, you know, baby mamas, they're going to need to be subsidized from the government. Going back to this viral clip of Andrew Tate running around saying you're still going to need men by proxy. And this is one of the talking points that Captain Solo, you know, has made numerous times over the years about what it is that men do. Men are the builders and the maintainers of the physical infrastructure. Women are keepers of the culture. They're the first teachers. They're the ones that essentially raise the children. But we've deviated so far, you know, from that, that now you have the left catering to all these different subgroups and factions, all the people that feel rejected from the right, essentially, and I'm going to get into that. And women, you know, they're catering to single women who are asking for bigger government. And even Kidology, you know, she is a feminist. She's made the point that basically with the degree that she got, she really can't find the type of work that she wants to do, and that's why she basically came online making these videos. Because she's not making enough money in whatever field, you know, she thought that she was going to go into with her degree. And so that is a primary example of the type of situation why you'll have women that will push for feminism, where you have situations where it's like, okay, you know, you know, they want a particular type of man with a particular type of lifestyle. Okay, I can understand that. But what if that man doesn't want her? I'm not talking about colorism or racism or any of that. I'm just saying, you know, what if she's not beautiful enough? I'm saying this go across the board for a white woman who's overweight or whatever, right? So they're not going to get that man that's going to be able to provide that lifestyle for them, right? I'm saying whether they were flexible with, you know, just being a stay-at-home mom or being a traditional woman. I'm saying if they can't get that man that's in that position, then they gotta survive themselves. And this is where big government comes in, and we need this, and we need subsidies, and we need this and that, and we need government programs and all that other. That's where that comes in. Feminists are always going to need government programs because again, that component of needing men, that proxy, the government becomes the man. We've talked about that before. The government comes through and replaces the man. Yeah, so the government becomes zaddy. And that's what women are going to advocate for. And that's why you have so many single, unmarried women, whether they have kids or don't have kids, that, find themselves in the leftist bin. You see? And so going back to my last video, when it comes to the men, this is where the right makes the mistake. And I talked about this with Candace Owens, Gavin Newsom, not Gavin Newsom. What am I talking about? Gavin McGinnis. Can't get those two mixed up. Gavin McGinnis and the little debate that they had with Cornel West. I'm like, I don't care what planet you're on. If you're talking about, heteronormative, cisgendered, nuclear, patriarchal families from the 1950s with Christian moral orientation, then you better start talking about men being gainfully employed. And that, in my opinion, is where the left fails, and why you have this sort of, people who migrated, to the left, at least initially. And I think the left is what would I call it? It's like a leaky tire at this point. And the reason I say it's a leaky tire is because, first off, it can't live up to all of its promises. And to me, it's still about the money. What people like, I'll tell you what the left gets right. What the left gets right is, should people, like, in other words, people should be able to, generally speaking, do what they want to do and live how they want to live. I agree with that when it comes to the right. And it shouldn't, you shouldn't be spending 90% of your income on the basic things just to live. That I agree with of the people on the right. And I should say, when it comes to the folks on the left, they present all these ideas. When it comes to the folks on the right, they present all these ideas of this, 1950s model nuclear family, but then they don't want to pay anybody. I'm like, that's impossible to maintain off of nothing. And this goes back to a point that Captain Solo has made in the past, and he continues to make, and it's just one of those things that stuck out to me. Is he said the right works if everybody does the right thing. But the minute that somebody doesn't do the right thing, if a parent doesn't do the right thing, if corporations don't do the right thing in terms of not paying people, right? If the social contracts break, if a woman becomes a single mother, or if a woman, teen pregnancy, whatever it may be, there is no safety net with the right. They just let people drown. And they think that, going outside and screaming out of a loudspeaker, my bootstraps, is going to, should be enough or suffice in order to correct things. And it is not. The more you don't pay men, the more single mothers you have. The more single mothers you have, the more women are going to demand programs from the government so that they can live and survive and take care of their kids. Not to mention the fact that when you have a situation where you have the men who aren't making enough money, and then you have the right that says, well, we don't want to pay people because capitalism, right? Let the chips fall where they may. You also are not going to have a whole bunch of men that are going to speak out against those programs for the women, because those that do have kids are going to, they're going to want their kids to survive. I don't have the money to cover it. She's getting assistance from the government. Okay, let it be. Let it be. Because I'm not making enough money. Again, Like money is money is money. It's going to come. It's like, in other words, it has to come out of the system and permeate the masses one way or another. Either you're going to pay people welfare, you're going to pay people universal basic income, or you're going to pay people a livable wage to where they can actually, work and sustain, a middle class lifestyle. Call it like I like to say, house buying wages. Society can bear, and it's an ugly reality, but a capitalist society can bear 20% of people being in poverty and 80% of people being everything from poverty all the way up to being insanely wealthy. But once you start getting to 50% and you start crossing that threshold of a critical mass, see, now you got revolution on the way. Like, it's going to cost people, either way. I should say, not people. It's going to cost the system either way. You know what I mean? Like, when you got, CEOs and they're, making, they're taking $8 million bonuses and stuff like that. Just like this hospital in New York. I had the clip. I forget what clip, or Presbyterian Hospital or something like that, where, the executives were getting these crazy bonuses and they're telling nurses, oh, we don't have enough money to pay you and basically keep the hospital functioning. But they're getting, $10 million bonuses. That's insane. That is a broken system. To think that you're going to be able to keep that going, in perpetuity is nonsensical. But this is what's done. So it's not that the left doesn't have its tenets. It does have its tenets. But the problem is it's chaos over there. Going back to what Kidology pointed out about when it comes to the right. The right does provide an identity and it provides structure. It's not that the left doesn't provide an identity. The left does provide an identity, but the identity is based on fluidity of identity. And the problem with that is you can't get anything done in an environment like that, because anytime somebody doesn't want to do something that they don't want to do, all they're going to do is change their hat. They're going to say, oh, well, I'm this. I'm no longer this. I'm this. Yesterday I was a unicorn. Now I'm Puff the Magic Dragon. And so because of that, you can't get anything done. Again, going back to that shit they had in Seattle, that Chaz or whatever that was, organization. It's all over the place. You get a bunch of them together. The conversation quickly turns into, well, who made you the boss? 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 There's no hierarchies. There's no because they don't believe in hierarchies. They don't believe in structure. And you have to have structure. You have to have organization when you're trying, to get things done, when you're trying to accomplish things. And so, again, even, talking about accomplishing things, going back to what I said about, the right, like Dana Lash, if I didn't already say this, like Dana Lash, she, there's a clip of her. I think, I don't know who played the clip. I think it was like Valsh or something like that. He played the clip of Dana Lash. And Dana Lash was like, I don't care how many kids, freaking Herschel Walker aborted. I want control of the Senate. You see, like, again, very direct goals. I want control of the Senate. I don't care about my morals, principles, whatever. I want control of the Senate. And then that's the goal. And then we can talk about, all the nuances and everything else later. Or once I get control of the Senate, then once I have control of that, then we can talk about how horrible of a person Herschel Walker is. But right now I want control of the Senate. And the left, they get into infighting. They cannibalize each other based off of, what the latest victim group is. And somehow, who should be the voice, of the collective. There's too many factions. Democrats, again, started out being the party of the unions, then slowly transitioned into, catering to black people. And that was that for a long time. Then transitioned over, to the gays. And now it's like people that aren't even American, and anybody else that has some radical idea about how they want to live and how they want to operate. And like I said, yeah, people should be able to function however they want to function. People should but be able to sustain themselves, make a living, all that. Just because you want to dye your hair purple, that doesn't mean that I think that you shouldn't be able to keep a roof over your head and put food in your mouth. Some of the people on the right actually, it's like they do. It's like, oh, well, if you want this, you must conform to this. So there is definitely room for criticism of the folks on the right. It's like, okay, how far do you want to take this? You can't possibly say that you're trying to take this to the point that people can't live. You see? And then that's where you have people that start really questioning, party alliances and party affiliation. I do think that politics need to be brought back to the middle and a more moderate, situation. Capitalism without socialism is over time, with enough time, capitalists will always, stack things in their favor. They have the resources to do so. It's just like I said with, people who are more intelligent than dumb people. With enough time, intelligent people will conspire against the dumb people because they don't want to be subject to dumb people's bullshit. They just don't. You take a bunch of, if I had a room and I threw a bunch of children in there, over time, the smart children would gravitate towards each other. The bullies, they would probably gravitate towards each other. They would be like, hey, why don't we just beat up all these other kids and take what we want? And the smart kids would be like, okay, we're not the strongest, but how do we prevent the bullies from messing with us? Maybe we should align with ourselves with the bullies, that's what's going to happen over time. If you have these people in close proximity, for long enough. But, I just wanted to give clarification to, the FD Signifier pretending like he don't get it. Maybe he doesn't get it. Man, a lot of the people on the panel, didn't get it. And I'm like, nah, it's because you guys want to put people in a box. And if they don't believe everything that you want to believe, like he was talking about the transgender dog whistle, like, and so the fuck what? Transgender dog whistle. So what? What if I don't like transgenders? And you know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't mean that I'm all of a sudden, on the far right. And so again, like literally FD Signifier did exactly what Kidology said the left does. He was by like halfway through the video, he started calling Kidology a moderate. And I'm like, so now she's a moderate because she doesn't. It's like, see that there you go right there. Now she's moderate because the only way that you can be a leftist is to be a radical leftist that agrees with all the tenets of what's on the left. So, again, that is the primary reason why, the left has a gaping hole, in what their audience or what they claim that they're trying to do and why they're losing people, why they're hemorrhaging. And on the right, it's only just beginning. The beginning to me was Undead Chronic's response to Dave Ramsey. That was the beginning of white men. And I'm saying where this conversation has gone recently. I know that OK Boomer has been a thing for a while now. But the more white men you see saying OK Boomer, like college was like 50 cents when you were growing up and rent was like $3, like OK Boomer. When you start seeing them start crunching numbers, see, numbers don't have anything to do with, political parties or political affiliation. They don't like the transgender stuff. They don't like the, some people do or don't like the, whatever your religious affiliation with it, is. Some people are indifferent about the gun issue. They're just like, I don't like the way that masculinity is attacked. I don't like the way that, everything is about, feminism all the way, but at the end of the day, like, once you get into, like, you're not paying young men to where young men can't get their life started, they can't date, they can't purchase property. I got interrupted. Yeah, but yeah, once you get to the point where they can't purchase property, you're dealing with dangerous territory. And I'm saying, in terms of there being a political, realignment, so to speak, in terms of, just where everybody's, going to fall, because, the conservatives, the right, has always stood on, that they bear the, the moral compass, because they advocate for Christianity. Yes, a Christian nation. And, they've upheld ideas of traditional family structures, and they've given people, that identity for those people who can make that work. But the more people cannot uh, make that work, the more that they either can't get that setup started, meaning the heteronormative nuclear cisgender family structure, the more that they can't start those traditional families, or the more that they can't maintain those traditional families, because we all know women initiate 80% of divorces, and no fault divorce and all that, which is another thing that came from, I'd argue, the left. But once men can no longer, and I know some feminists will be like, see, that's the thing, men, the only reason women stick around is because of men's ability to provide, and you'll get into a philosophical argument about that. But the fact of the matter is no broke man is going to have a happy marriage and a woman stick around for very long. So the crazy thing that the left is doing with its, we don't want to pay people, we don't believe in unions, it's hurting capitalism, and everybody should just, tighten their belts and pull themselves up by the bootstraps and whatnot. They're creating more leftists. That's the funny part. They don't recognize. I'm like, all the stuff that y'all talk about, most people can deal with that. They can deal with the homophobia. They can deal with the transphobia. They can deal with, the religiosity, right? They can deal with, the ideas of capitalism, right? But capitalism only works, or people only subscribe or trust capitalism to the extent that they can actually make money, be rewarded, the more work they put in, the more they get out of it, right? But once it starts looking like that dangling carrot no longer exists, once it starts looking like they can't make it, and they're just basically the working poor, which is a rock's throw away from slavery, you're going to start having people who are going to who reject the other things, because the other things are intangible. They're ideas. The money is tangible. You know what I'm saying? Like what somebody believes about, what a family structure should look like, it's not tangible. What somebody believes about how capitalism should function, it's not tangible. What somebody believes about, who their God is, that's not tangible. But money is tangible. And once you take that out of the room, everything else falls apart. Same thing that I said about why young men no longer attend church like that. The thing is that, and this is straight from Captain Solo, but it's like, when you have a church, an institution, and that and jobs are great and everything's working, people don't challenge the church. You know what I mean? Like, God is good all the time, and everybody will respond, and all the time God is good. Like, and it's just that simple, because there's no way to verify, or, deny or confirm whether you have this great job because of God or not. It always boggles my mind whenever somebody is like super religious and they get a job and they're like, yeah, I'm doing great. But then, the person next to them, like, they're struggling. I'm like, how do you explain that? And then it turns into some God works in mysterious ways. God giveth, God taketh away. And I'm like, it's funny how easy you can just throw that out there when it's not you that is having shit taketh away from. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as you're not losing your ass, it's funny how you can just throw up some magical shit. So, that's the interesting thing about, when looking at this, the whole thing with the church. And man, I'm like, yeah, this is the first time that the church is being stressed and challenged like that. Or actually, I'd argue it wouldn't be the first time, because, the Great Depression, would have arguably, been the first time, because people were gambling and throwing all, speculations around and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's the first time. But after World War II, men came back from war. The government subsidized their housing, built Levitt towns, and essentially everything that was manufactured and produced in the United States, the rest of the world consumed. So it was a boom time. But now, you got the internet, social media. We don't have a manufacturing base. We have a shell of a manufacturing base. I still don't know what you do with the 80% of people that don't go to college. The cost of living is through the roof. Primarily the housing, and so once you take all that, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. I get sick of the religious people that want to jump up and act like, oh, if we all got right with God, all this would be all that would be, revealed. Everything would be fixed. I'm like, bullshit. They're paying people in China 50 cents an hour. They got to put up nets so these people, don't, jump off of the building and whatnot. They got to do all this stuff, because they want to make iPhones over in China, then make iPhones right here on American soil. Because if they made iPhones right here on American soil, they would have to pay people, a minimum of $15, $20 an hour in order to do that. And they don't want to do that. Why? I can pay them 50 cents an hour and put together a phone. That's why you get an iPhone for, just over $1,000. That's why you get an iPhone for that cost. Otherwise, it would be more than that. So, these are the things that people don't get. Like I'm telling you, if you just follow the money, if you focus on money, and you focused on, okay, I got to make this much in order to live comfortably, to even remotely live the American dream, you can get past a lot of the other bullshit. Because a lot of these problems and a lot of these issues would be resolved, even the gender war would be resolved, if you had, young men that were gainfully employed. You know what I mean? A lot of women wouldn't be talking, the stuff that they're talking. There's a lot of women that they would love to just be a stay-at-home wife. I'm not going to sit there and say that it's all of women, because obviously it's not. It's just not. But I think that after this little experiment that we've had, they're like, man, please let me find a dude that's got it going on like that, and I'm off the market. Oh, do you like your eggs scrambled? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of women that are like, yo, get me out of the rat race. But, you had the feminists that jumped up and told women that, more freedom and rights, being in the rat race and all this other stuff. And they got into it. I mean, you should see the arguments made by some of the women suffragists when it came to, or anti-suffragists, when it came to, women's right to vote. Like, first off, it doesn't even make sense, because if the husband and the wife have different political views, they're nullifying each other's vote. So it's a nullification. One wife, one husband, he votes Republican, she votes Democrat. Neither one of them might as well have voted. It's a waste of a vote. But some people argue like, no, it gives us numbers and analytics so that we can know how the next time to cater to, whoever we want to cater to, again, facilitating more single. Okay, so we know if we got the wife away from the husband, that she would vote, Democrat, so let's get the wife away from the husband, right? And then they start incentivizing, those things. Bust up the family. Yes, now we actually have a group that, we can focus on, that is, as opposed to two different people, a partnership, a couple. Getting a couple to come to agreement, because this idea that men just come into the room, me strong man dick, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Husbands consult their wives. Yes, he may have the final say because he's the breadwinner, but this idea that men just go in there strong arming everything that goes on with, that's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? A man will buy a house and literally he only gets one room to himself. The rest of the house is hers. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I like people that try to throw up that tyrannical shit at the same time. They argue that they want some man to be balling out of control to, provide a luxurious lifestyle for them. I'm like, you're talking out of both sides of your face. Because the same man that's in the position to provide luxury is the same man that's in the position to enact tyranny. But yet when he's buying you Christian Dior and all this expensive stuff and Louis Vuitton and all this other crap, all of a sudden it's not tyranny anymore. You know what I mean? So anyway, let me get off the gender stuff. But yeah, like I'm saying, overall, when it comes to, FD Signifier's position, and a lot of the people, the left really has a hard time turning the mirror on itself. It really has a hard time doing it. It really, again, if I walk into a gun space, the gun space knows that they have an issue with the idea that all gun owners are just, middle-aged white males. They're like, no. We gotta change the face of that. Why do you think the NRA went and picked up Coleon Noir? And then who's the other chick? The Okafor chick. And who else did they try to get a part of the NRA? A black person. They're like they changed that shit. They tried. I'll at least give them some credit on that shit. Because they're like, yo, we can't just roll with the white males and guns model, because that's going to be very difficult to justify. With that, like, hey, what's more important, the Second Amendment or some racist shit in the background? You see? But when it comes to the left, I don't think the left is as self-reflective on why they turn people off. Like I said, the Muslim woman in the video that wanted to talk about Islam, and I'm like, chick, we're not in an Islamic caliphate. Why are you bringing up Islam and how women are treated in Islam when this panel about feminism is about feminism in America? America has already made 1,000,001 concessions to women that, yes, doesn't exist in the Muslim world, but you're bringing up how your childhood or whatever the hell you went through, and you're trying to apply it to this situation because feminism is for women's rights and more women having freedom and this, that, and the third. But in a Western context, not like these women are not going up against the Taliban or Al Qaeda or Hamas or the Muslim Brotherhood. Like, they're not going up against any of that. They're not going up against Saddam. They're going up against, their husbands. They're going up against, corporate America. Why aren't there more female CEOs? Like, they're like that's so beyond what some woman is dealing with in Saudi Arabia. Like, chick, get real. But this is how wacky, the left will get, where it's just like they have anger issues on certain things, and then anybody who opposes them, they'll lash out. They'll go, ballistic and start yelling and screaming and get in their faces and yell at them and tell them this, and it's like, and I don't even know how black people got, tossed to the back of the line on this. And I personally, I think black people got tossed to the back of the line because, again, all these, these groups that feel, and the thing is that's another thing. a lot of these groups are not groups that have historically been discriminated against. A lot of these people that are in the group, because FD Signifier talked about a lot of white liberals, a lot of them are just the ones that basically, again, they fall liberal when the stringent expectations of the right cannot be maintained, especially when we get into talking about resources and not paying people and all that other stuff. When they find themselves, hey, I went to college, I got a college degree, but yet I can't find, gainful employment, you're going to have somebody who's going to, fall into the right. And they're going to have, the academic knowledge and wisdom, so to speak, in order to have a charismatic YouTube channel and speak on these issues and be an advocate of the left. But would they be on the left if things worked out for them? And so, there's an argument to be had, when it comes to that. People who are like, they become these social justice warriors because things didn't work out for them. But at the same time, the right ignores when they let the bottom fall out. Like, you don't never let the bottom fall out. You're creating the very group of people that you claim that you can't stand and that you hate. And there's more people. Personally, I think that despite the fact that the left has a leaky tire, in my opinion, the right, has a much bigger hole in its tire. First off, there's a lot of freaking older people on the right who won't be here in the next 20 years. That's the first part. So they have a dying population. The left is winning the cultural war when it comes to young people, very young people. But the problem with that is, I'm like, you still live with your parents. You live off of your parents. You're still too young to have to, what do you call it? You're still too young to have lived yet. So you have all this idealism in your head, march for our lives, we need gun control and things like that. And I'm like, especially when I'm looking at the young men, I'm like, yeah, wait until you got a family that you got to protect. Wait, because remember, the economy is not getting better. People aren't making money, right? So crime is going to rise. Right. So regardless of whatever your political affiliation is, which I think the Second Amendment should be a bipartisan issue, you're going to need to protect yourself and protect your family from carjackings and home invasions more than ever. So a 17-year-old talking about, mass shootings at school, which is a drop in the bucket as it pertains to, the majority of gun violence out here, which is, at the top of the list is gang violence, and then below that are, other forms of petty crime, home invasions, carjackings, strong arm robberies, those sorts of things. And I'm like, you're not faced with that yet. You're a child. You go to school, you live at home, you get on the school bus, right? Then you go to school, then you go back home. But when you become an adult, and then again, we still have these, residual things from, the archaic model of the traditional family that still lingers around. I'm being facetious when I say archaic, but that's how the left likes to look at it. I'm saying those responsibilities still linger. That's another frustrating part for men, where like women, they want to be progressive and we're all progressive and we're going to make everything progressive and move everything forward. But when it comes to men's responsibility to provide, that somehow stays in the room. When it comes to men's responsibility to protect, that somehow stays in the room. You know what I mean? When it comes to men's responsibility to work dangerous jobs, that still stays in there. There's, women talk about feminism and female empowerment. When it comes to them, being the corporate CEO executive in a high-rise building, but, there's no army of women trying to, bust into the trades. There's no army of women trying to bust into dirty jobs, and there's no blockade of men trying to prevent them from getting into those jobs. You see, so, a lot of the folks on the left, and I get it, because, everybody who was anything other than a white male was excluded from these positions, they want to skip right to the leadership position. But like I said, with men and women and the gender and everything, like whether you want to look at it from a racial standpoint or whether you want to look at it from a gender standpoint, especially when you get to the gender standpoint, you really see, how that sort of imbalance doesn't work. You can't have women being, somehow the intellectual class, and then men are just going to be the proletariat, laborers and the manual labor or the chattel labor, so to speak. With empowered women with OnlyFans having a harem of men. I mean, you're flipping society on its head. And the thing is once you piss men off enough, you got two realities are going to happen. You're either going to have revolution, or you're going to have men just basically shut down. Personally, I think revolution is inevitable. But first, what will happen is the shutting down. And this is the weird thing about even like with the women with the big government, and they want to get resources from the government because there's more single, unwed women and whatnot. But I'm like, if the men are shutting down, then that population that has for a very long time been the most productive population of Western society, if they shut down, then the resources that come from the tax dollars generated from their productivity is not going to be there's not going to be, in other words, there's going to be more money, more people taking money out of the pot than money that's going into the pot to be taken out of. So if you have, Dave Ramsey up there talking about 7 million jobs. First off, a lot of those jobs are bullshit. They're fast food wage jobs, and they don't pay anything. No full medical and dental, no pension, none of that stuff. Not house buying wages. So that's why the men are saying miss me with that. But my point remains the same, which is that if the most productive segment of your society, is basically shutting down, walking away, going abroad, whatever it may be, eventually you're going to get to a point where you got all these single mothers or all these single women that need men's productivity by proxy, and that proxy being essentially the government, but the government doesn't have enough resources because the government doesn't have a proper tax base. It's the same thing that happened in Detroit. The auto industry collapsed, right? Jobs left, all the ancillary businesses also left, and then freaking Detroit is running around telling people that are the last house on the street that they got to move because they're going to shut the water off or shut the electricity off because, having that much of an urban sprawl, and trying to allocate the limited tax base that they have, they're like, look, you costing us a lot of money to bring services out here. You see, you're costing us more than what you actually give us. We can't continue to do this. Again, math is math. So eventually, if what I'm identifying is not corrected, then and men, exit society however they exit society, women are not going to get what they want. Women are not just, the government is not just like it's like a genie that you rub the lamp on and you say, abracadabra, smash the patriarchy, and then the genie just spits out resources. The government gets those resources from men's productivity. But once men cease to see the value in being productive because there's no reward to them for being productive, they're going to say fuck it. And when they say fuck it, suddenly the government's not going to have those tax dollars to give to women. So to me, it's like, I'm like, you're cannibalizing yourself. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know what I mean? But, the left, that we're going to be progressive and we're going to this and that and we're going to da 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 da. I'm like, you can't be progressive if men are not being productive. Sorry, but you can't. You're going to run out of money. You're going to have America looking like Greece and then run around be talking about austerity measures and shit like that. So, I mean, overall, in my opinion, the Western civilization will continue to suffer until it recognizes and respects the value of men as it pertains to a society. I don't know how we got so off base. You know, I think it's in part because there's always an adversarial relationship between young men and old men who run the government. There's always an adversarial relationship. You know, it's like when you look at the Discovery Channel and you see like the I don't know, gorillas, hyenas, orangutans. Actually, hyenas actually has a matriarchal structure, but I'm saying lions and stuff like that. And you have the lions and the young lions. You know, they're like, hey, you know, this old dude is taking all the bitches. Why don't we, you know, take his ass out, right? There's always an adversarial relationship between young men and old men. Always. But like I said, I'm blown away at white supremacy sacrificing its own children in order to, you know, maintain, you know, senior citizen dominance. Like that's the shit that gets me. I'm like, you do realize your own grandkids can't afford to move out, right? You do realize your own grandkids can't afford to purchase a home, let alone start a family. You do realize that, right? Right? I mean, where is the legacies and generational wealth in that? Where is the continuation of white supremacy in that? Doesn't exist. You know, so, you know, when just looking at it, until this society actually recognizes the importance of men, you know, as Rich Cooper says, you know, and I raise a glass, you know, enjoy the decline. With that said, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.